Hi and welcome to Alder Fen Fishery. This is a part of a floater fishing day where I'm doing the presentation, but it's also a chance for you to have a look at the fishery that we're fishing on, and that is Alder Fen, a complex of 3 lakes. So before we do anything else, let's have a look around the complex and meet the guy that runs it, Mark Gregory.
We've come out today for an advanced floater session on Alder Fen Fishery. I'm just going to introduce you to the owner, Mark Gregory, and he's going to run you through the venues that are on site.
Okay.
Mark, over to you.
Well, thank you very much. Well, as you can see, on Alder Fen we've got 3 lakes on site. This lake is our what we call our gate pool, and this is an out-and-out pleasure lake. The anglers that fish this fish it really because the quality of the pleasure fishing. There's no massive fish in here, but there's a lot of fish in here, so it's a great place to floater fish. We've got masses of carp between 5 and 10 pound, nothing spectacular, the odd double, but it's also a very, very good mixed fishery for tench and bream. Enormous perch in here. There's 3 different fish over 4 pound this year. Wow. So the anglers that fish this have a real cult following. I've got a real hardcore bunch that love it, and but for anybody starting carp fishing, be it on the bottom or surface fishing like we are doing today, you're almost guaranteed to catch them, provided you do everything sensibly and straightforward. You know, it's a great place to learn your craft. So it's 3 acres. It was originally, when we first opened the complex many years ago, we had in mind a match fishing, but neither Dave, who ran the complex up to last year when I took it back from him, or myself initially particularly, have ever been match anglers, and it's not a discipline that we particularly enjoyed. So this now is an out-and-out pleasure lake, and it's like the rest of the lakes on the complex, absolutely beautiful. It's had a good haircut this winter, a lot of work done on it, but
you can see it's very well pruned and well kept. It really is a beautiful venue.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's matured massively. This was a greenfield site 17 years ago. There were no lakes here. Yeah. This was just flat fields, no trees. All the vegetation, all the wildlife is testament really to Dave and Jane, who've run it for many years. Myself in the early days, and our late friend Nick. There were 3 of us that set the fishery up, and the landowner Phil, who we leased the lakes from, was instrumental in making something that would contribute to the wildlife and flora and fauna in the area. So around us today we've got nesting kingfishers, nesting oyster catchers. The absolute wildlife on site is just a pleasure.
That's magnificent, isn't it?
It's fantastic. Yeah.
And it's a rarity with modern day fishing nowadays. A lot of them are so built up and rushed, you don't get this rural built up with lots of decent countryside and lots of wildlife to go for. So it's not just the fishing. For any keen angler, the wildlife's just as important. Very
much so, and if you look around the site, the amount of wildlife is just spectacular. But it's 17 years into a project in the making now, and obviously people, it's low intensity fishing. As you can see, the lakes aren't rammed, it's season permit only now. We no longer do day tickets on site, and as a result of that, we know all the lads and lasses that come on site. The kids who come on, members' kids love it. It's a safe place to fish, and just a wonderful fishery to be on.
Fantastic, that is good, brilliant. Thank you very much, Mark, really appreciate that.
No problem.
We're on the Pads Lake now. This is exactly where we're doing the advanced floater fishing session with Brian Scoyles. Mark's going to talk to us a little bit about Pads Lake and explain a bit of the history about it as well.
All right, well what we've got behind us is just shy of 3 acres of water, and when we initially created the lake back in the sort of 2004, 2005, it was dug with a view in mind that we would develop a specimen lake, and initially this had some enormous fish of all species in tench, bream, rudd, chub, all to specimen sizes. Commercially, I don't think it was particularly well received by specialist anglers. We had an hardcore that loved it, but a lot of people didn't like the instant feel to it. Over the years, Dave, who managed the site before me, has created what it is now, which is basically a great place to start carp fishing. It's a runs water. There's 200 fish in here now to just over 20 pound. The vast majority of fish are between sort of 10 and 15 pound, but they're growing the nice strain of fish, some great young mirrors. It's a lovely place to come fishing, learn your craft.
Yeah.
It's not too technically challenging, but by God, there's some good fish. You know, it's not unusual this time of year now to have 10 or a dozen fish in a session. Some great mirrors, some lovely commons, and as a result, it's got quite a popular following amongst my members. Not everybody wants to catch 30 and 40 pounders or sit there weeks at a time waiting for a take. So it's a great place to start.
And do you know what? I'm one of them people, because as much as I like to catch the big ones, every now and again, well, quite often, I would much prefer to go and have 4 or 5 fish in an evening than sit there for 2. I just haven't got time with work commitments and stuff. So you've got to try and fit it into your angling, haven't you?
I think you make a very good point there that, you know, with work commitments, it's hard for people to devote days of their life, and it would be an ideal venue for yourself. And most of my members would fall in the category like you. Most of the members at Fish Here, it's a season permit, are working chaps and ladies. We've got plenty of lady members and girls and youngsters at Fish It as well. But most of the members come after work, or they've only got one night a week or one evening a week or a couple of mornings a week to come fishing. This is a great lake to do it on. It's not too technically challenging, and you can just about any method you want will catch fish. They're roaming around looking for quality bait, and that's what
wonderful.
they like.
Is it a sort of venue that they respond to bait quite well?
Oh, very much so.
Oh, fantastic.
Very much so. We fed, because the fishery wasn't fished a lot last year. One of the jobs Elaine and I have had to do is drag it back up and get more interest in it. It had been left to its own devices for a season. The syndicate that were on it, great bunch of lads, were only sort of 30 odd strong, and it meant that the fish were quite hungry. So one of the things we did this last winter was feed them quality pellet, Allo Aqua pellet. They had nearly half a ton in here.
Oh, so and they've put the weight on.
Oh, they've put the weight on them, but more importantly now, if you put a bed of pellets out and stick a little pop-up or a wafter over the top, you're away.
Well,
they love
a little
it.
tip for the viewers.
Absolutely. I, as a fish farmer, which I am, it's very, very difficult to make bait as good as what Coppens or Screttons or Allo Aqua make proprietary fish. Extruded pellets are as good as you can get.
Yeah, of course.
If you want a quick fix anywhere, a kilo of pellets out there with a bait over the top on this particular water, and most of my other waters, works wonders. It really does.
But if you think about it as well on the other way, that any fish farmer, they're reared on them pellets. To a carp, it's completely natural.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and they're just looking at it as a natural food source. So it's one of them things you can really use and
what
use to your advantage.
What I find as well is how easy it is to almost train fish in inverted commas. The areas, the 2 or 3 areas of the lake that I fed over winter still consistently produce lots of fish that come in looking, I'm absolutely sure, for a bed of pellets and an easy meal. They're not going to make their life difficult. If you feed an area of a lake as an angler, if you concentrate on a couple of 3 spots, and the easiest and cheapest way to do it and quickest, talk about fishing when you're working, you haven't got time to be boiling particles, rolling bait. The easiest way is get a decent pellet, sack a pellet, pound a kilo, feed that into a couple of 3 spots, come in and fish it.
Exactly.
And
you know what? A lot of it nowadays as well. A lot of it, everybody's selling products and all the rest of it. But sometimes, if you go back to the basics and do something like that, you sell pellets on site as well, don't you?
I sell my pellets at cost to the anglers. What I pay for them is what I sell them at, because they all throw it in here.
Yeah.
And it works a wonder.
It is. It's a wonderful advantage for the fishery and for the angler to get what they want from the fishing. That's fantastic. A really good thing to do.
So again, if you want to fish the Pads Lake at Alder Fen, you do a lot worse than basically get some decent pellet fish and fish boilies over the top.
Fantastic.
It's that easy. It's that easy.
I'll bear that in mind.
No worries.
Brilliant. We're on Windham Lake, and this is the last one on the complex now. And as you can see, it's magnificent. It's not very often you get the opportunity to see fish spawning, but they're spawning in the background. But obviously you can view that while we're having a chat, and I'm sure that will distract you. Over to you, Mark.
Well, this is the oldest lake on the complex. This is where the complex started initially. Phil dug here 2 flight ponds for his ducks, and then we extended one of those, and that bay that we can see behind us was originally a stock pond, which we then dug into the main lake. Then this lake was joined to the other half of the lake via the channel here. So this developed over 3 or 4 years and several digs into the lake it is now. It's 6.5 acres, and it's absolutely beautiful. It really is. It's very intimate little place to fish, and like you say, as we're walking around, it's a great, we designed it as a place to sort of stalk fish, but most people of course come and bivvy up and fish 3 rods, but for a lake where you want to go around with a float rod and set some little traps, it's just a wonderful place to fish out there on that clear spot.
The clear spots are so noticeable as well, and it's not just one area, it seems to be all over the lake, these areas. It must be quite difficult when people do come up with 3 rods, finding an area and sticking to it, because for me it's like, oh, there's one, there's another one. You just can't have enough rods.
I think probably this area that we've got behind us, the bay behind us, and this widening area down to the bridge in the channel is probably the most productive area of the lake in terms of number of fish caught. All of the margins do fish. As you can see, it's not particularly deep here. And there's clear spots all over it. So pick your spot, bait it and wait, and generally speaking, you'll catch them. A lot of fish spawning behind us, 1st of June. I'm glad they're getting it out of the way, really. They've been on and off now for a fortnight. But
So with regards to the fish in this lake, obviously these are much bigger than the ones in the other lakes. What sort of stamp that would you say you've got in this one?
This is a very good 20s fishery, and most of the fish tend to be upper doubles, low 20s. Biggest fish out so far this season is 27 pounds. So you're not going to break any records, but as a little intimate water, it's the collection of fish. It's not just the size. We tend to talk about size of fish as though it's the be all and end all. The fish are beautiful. There's a lot of leanies in here, a lot of cross leanie dinks, some beautiful deep bodied commons, and as you can see there, the odd ghost, there's a ghostie there, must be 15 pound floating about behind us. We've only got 2 or 3 in, and I'm not a lover myself, but Dave obviously must have succumbed to temptation.
They do stick out a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. But as I say, I think now we've probably got around about 150 fish in 6 acres. The vast majority are upper doubles, and there's probably 30, 20s, something like that.
Wow. It's a really good stamp of fish. And like you say, they're very pretty fish. They're not one here that you can say that is an ugly fish. They're all stunners.
Absolutely.
Perfectly kept. You really have got one very pretty venue.
I think if anybody, we don't hide anything and we don't lie about, we don't try and pretend it's the be all and end all. But if you look on the Facebook page, you've got a gallery of fish going back there now, several seasons that highlight it more than I can describe. You can, you see what you're fishing for. They're just wonderful, wonderful fish. It's a lovely collection of fish, and it's credit to Dave, who's looked after them and like his own for the last, quite strict on his rules, and as a result of that, they're not bumped and bashed about. As a this is the first fishery we've ever had where we've insisted on barbless hooks, and I think sort of now 17 years in for using barbless hooks, it's reaping the benefits. You can tell the mouths of the fish are in fantastic condition. Bear in mind it was day ticket for a lot of that time. So really, it's proved its worth.
Makes a big difference, doesn't it?
I always was sort of sat on the fence really, because I've seen fantastic fish with waters that allow barbed hooks. I think the modern patterns of hooks with the micro barbed.
Semi-barbed is about where as far as you can go nowadays.
But Dave was stricter than me, and I've just kept his rules, I'll be honest with you, because it's not broke, so I'm not changing it.
Too right.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
No
thank you very much for your time, Mark. It's been a pleasure to have a look around this lake. It really is special.
No problem.
Thank you.
Glad you like it. Cheers.